Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you're playing characters Mannix, Celeste, Gillian, George, or Theron, look away, go away, you're not welcome here. But for the rest of you, are welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you'd like to support the channel, check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shout out to platinum patrons Andrew, Brian, Richard, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Charles, Crazy Pat, and Nick. And gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy and Yuma, Marcos David Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, aka Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard Lounge, Auction, Sam. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Hello, Tiny. How are you? Happy 7-Eleven to everyone. I believe everybody gets a free drink at 7-Eleven today or something. I used to do that at some point. We are officially in the Typhoon Palace. I can actually talk about what happened in the Typhoon Palace and not just talk about what will happen in the Typhoon Palace for once. I dropped the players off at this entrance, and honestly, I was expecting them to explore a bit more around and maybe take one of the side entrances instead of just coming up right through the middle, but instead they came up right through the middle, which is fine. I was planning on having this wasp nest be a surprise ambush that the players would not notice, because if you've ever dealt with... I've actually had a lot of encounters with wasps this summer, so this is actually kind of a real-world inspiration. We have a covered patio, and it is just wasp central. Like, they will build nests like at the drop of a hat at a certain time, usually like early summer. And it can be very scary because you could be like just chilling and you occasionally see a wasp flying around, and all of a sudden you look up, and within like, 2 or 3 feet of your face is just a wasp nest with like half a dozen of them. Like, it's fucking scary as hell, because they're very mean and aggressive, but they'll chill unless you get real close to their nest. So I was kind of playing up that mentality, and instead what happened is Theron cast Speak with Plants, which is one of those things first of all I forgot he could do because I gave him a freaking staff of plant powers, and he's never done it before. And these kind of spells can be some of the most intimidating for DMs to run. Those kind of like augury spells, the ones where it's always like, basically in the DM's guide it just says like, hey, this is DM's discretion and what they want to tell you and what's going on. And any of these kind of like Speak with the Dead, or any of these that have to involve suddenly me jumping into a role-playing encounter that I was not expecting at all. So you can see me panic for probably half a second, probably longer in the actual stream, and then just try to go with it. And I immediately realized that they wouldn't really be able to get any useful information here because this place has been abandoned for years, and I believe the spell only says like in the past day or something that you actually learn any information. So, and I didn't want to necessarily just have it be like, oh, it's just a funny gag, because then the player might be like, alright, well, I'm never using this spell again. That's always a bummer. And I think that happened in Prince of the Apocalypse, where Kalinar used some kind of divine intervention spell to like summon a powerful thing, and it cost too much money, or in some way I didn't balance it well enough where he ended up saying, like, literally audibly, like, oh well, I guess I'm never going to use this again. And that was a bummer. So I wanted to try to make sure he got something out of it, so I had the plant be able to tell them about the wasps. So that was at least actionable intel that the players were able to learn and take advantage of. So in this case, Gillian actually cast her hut, which she really hasn't been able to use in combat because I believe it has a 1-minute casting time. It's not really meant for combat purposes. It's meant more for a safe place to drop the hut and get like a long rest in, or short rest or something. But because they had an enemy in sight that wasn't outwardly hostile to them, they could prepare better, so they could spend some time doing this. Hopefully we ran the hut rules correctly, because it sounded like the hut magic only pertains to people inside the hut when she actually cast the spell. Mannix was outside the hut, so he couldn't magically go in and out like others could. So I had the Wasps unfortunately swarm Mannix, and he went down from 2 Wasp strikes. So they were able to do it really cleverly, and I think I'll give Mannix inspiration for this for next session, in that he did that cool thing where he had his illusion spell walk up, which of course drew a Wasp down to attack, so they could clearly see that. And then they actually were able to kill 2 of the Wasps before the encounter even started. Celeste just rolled really high on initiative, and I believe killed one as it approached. And then I think Mannix was able to kill the other. Which Wasps are fun enemies. I really like enemies that have a high offense, low defense. They don't stick around very long, but when they do stick around, they do a lot of damage. And it makes it very exciting and tense without taking a long time. The problem was Mannix was like the only target out here, so literally like 2 of the Wasps went after him, and he went down from 2 Wasp attacks, which was a bummer for him. Poor Mannix. Otherwise, it didn't even last a single round. The party were able to clean up. So they got forewarning, and they did everything correctly, but because just their weakest party member happened to be out in front, and I rolled decently well on initiative, they still took like heavy blow in terms of one player going down, even with doing everything else right. So just kind of a funny comment on there, but otherwise I was pleased with the way it went, and I was pleased that I was able to reward Theron for thinking to cast Speak with Plants to get information. I liked being able to give him information because of casting that spell. Free Slurpee Day, that's what it is, yes. Yeah, expecting players to do things. Foolish me. That's the plight of the DM in general. Thank you, yes, I enjoyed pulling a random voice out of my ass and role-playing a talking fern. That was, and those kind of moments can just make for really fun roleplay. I mean, George like cutting off a thing and fanning himself, like all that's just kind of goofy fun that we enjoy. And it's very enjoyable. So they went in the entrance, which has a portcullis, which there are. What's funny is Celeste, and I didn't even think the players would think of this. If I were a player, I don't think I would have thought of this. But she actually mentioned how wide are the bars? Like, could somebody fit through them? And then I immediately said, yes, somebody that was small enough, which Theron is a dwarf, could squeeze through the bars. Now, it would take a pretty high acrobatics check, I believe, but he could do that if he wanted to, and I didn't know the players would even think of that. And also, I think, teased the fact that they could just lift it up with enough strength. But George was like, fuck that. He really wanted to use his teleportation cloak, which is totally fine, and he teleported inside, which is a great use of a teleporting cloak. He was able to teleport inside and then raise the thing up. Now, it would have been really interesting had there actually been enemies in here that attacked him. That would have been fascinating, and that's probably what George was kind of hoping for. George is that interesting kind of player that enjoys setting off traps because, in a way, I think he knows. I mean, he has like a reckless attitude, but like in a good way, because he knows it also creates like really fun, dramatic, memorable moments. So I would expect he was teleporting in here expecting that to be this suddenly crazy split party combat situation. Everybody's on their side. Instead, he was just teleported inside. There's nothing really in here, and he could just raise it up and have everybody else join in. So no big deal. Mannix did roll investigation in here. Now, part of this dungeon's design is that all of the traps are nullified if somebody is wearing a holy symbol of Umberly. That's kind of like the puzzle, the overall puzzle to solve, because there are a number of really deadly traps in here. And he rolled such a good investigation check and was very careful about searching this area that I decided to go ahead and give him one. I don't think I was originally going to place one in here. I think I had one up here in the barracks area. But instead I allowed him to give him one, and I think I even teased the fact, I don't know if because of what he rolled or if I just felt like giving that information, but it felt, I told him that, this seemed like a useful symbol to have in this area, or something to that effect. I kind of teased, and he immediately picked up on that and put it on. So that was kind of neat. And I enjoyed the fact that, we had a player, it was Reese's player, or character, Talus, in the Prince's campaign. I don't know if we actually had one in Storm Kings. That was a very erudite style character. And he was the same way. He would always run experiments and be very, very fun in dungeons, because you kind of want that player that's going to experiment with things and try to figure things out. And Mannix is that character here, and he hasn't had a chance to do that a lot because we haven't had a lot of dungeons. So I like the fact that he was able to do things, for example, with the crab pool, and again with the glyph of warding here. Interestingly enough, they picked out of the 4 doors here, they picked the one that was crumbling and kind of partially open. The crab pool could have been a really interesting situation. I think it was Celeste who reached in brazenly, made the save, so nothing happened. And then when Mannix got close, and he made sure to have Detect Magic on, he detected the magic around it. Now I thought of the possibility that when they saw the, so here's what happens in the total package text. It's really bizarre. If you donate money into this crab basin, a dozen crabs come out and like clean you. Like they go over and like pick up all the bits of dirt and stuff. Like it's really weird and goofy and random. And that seemed kind of interesting. But there's no way for the players to really know that unless I think they cast like the identify spell or something to specifically try to understand like what this spell, like what this enchantment does. But that's why there's crabs in there. And only if you destroy the pool or somehow attack it, which I don't know why the hell a player would ever attack a statue pool, then you're subject to the transformation into a crab as like a curse. So I changed that to be like, if you touch the water, you become a crab. And maybe I was going to have something where if they actually do throw coins in there, like they'd get some kind of a buff or something. So I thought with this change, I would still have the crabs in there. And then I even did realize, oh, if I have it be where this water transforms into a crab, they're going to see crabs down there and then maybe try and like transform them back. Now the main key is, it's not like being unsubmerged from the water untransforms you. You're polymorph for like a day. Although if you get attacked, then the same polymorph rules apply. But I did have them not be enchanted either because I didn't want to just pull a bunch of NPCs out of my hat. And frankly, everybody that would have been cursed by this, I mean, it only lasts a day. Everybody's long dead who was in this temple, or most of them, I guess. It wouldn't have lined up like lore-wise to have that be the case. So I just have it be a bunch of normal crabs that happen to be in there. That was supposed to be kind of a hint about maybe what happens. But it was interesting the fact that they picked up like, oh, we should try to pull crabs out of here, and then they'll turn into whatever they were supposed to. I suppose I could have turned it into some kind of a combat encounter, maybe, like they get transformed into a chul or something. But I just kind of wanted this to be an interesting little trap situation, and it never really panned out. I do think it was funny that Mannix experimented using his frog. That is very in keeping with his personality. That he has this disdain for his little Pokemon frog, and he dipped his frog in, or had the frog jump in there, and then the frog became a crab, and then used that crab later as another experiment. So there's a lot of reasons to award Mannix inspiration here. I really like the way he was playing the various traps and areas. And then they went in the Glyph of Warding statue area because it did ping his Detect Magic, which is Detect Magic is going to be very, very useful in this dungeon. Which did not go off because of his symbol, and I believe I did tease that as he got closer. And again, he rolled a really good investigation check. He's very observant in that way, and that is his character build. This is like what he's built for, so I totally don't mind rewarding him with this foreknowledge. He was able to see where the trap is, how the trap works. Maybe not exactly how the trap works, other than there's a Glyph of Warding on the statue itself, but it is also tied to his holy symbol. Now, what I didn't tell him is that symbol is still active. It is currently... He basically has a disarmed bomb in his backpack. I don't know if he'll ever think of that, and I don't know if I'll ever bring it up, but... And it's not like a bomb that he would be able to throw and explode. It's a bomb that he would be able to set as like a proximity mine, because if anybody touches that little statuette... I forget how big it's supposed to be. I think it was like maybe a foot, 2 feet or something. If anybody touches that without holding the holy symbol, then that will set off the Glyph of Warding, which is this explosive, thunderous blast. So it is worth some money, but what's funny is as soon as he tries to sell it or use it in a combat situation, it will go off. Or if he ever takes that holy symbol off, then it will also go off. So he's got that. I don't know if he knows he has that. We might all forget about it. I might forget about it. But that was my original intention, was like, yes, he was able to acquire this item, but he only... It's still active. Like, he has not dispelled the actual glyph. The glyph still remains on this statuette that he has in his backpack. He just happens to be wearing the holy symbol. If he was ever unconscious and, like, looted, and somebody thought to like remove that would cause the same effect. So that might have some interesting repercussions. I don't know, but this is something that I'm gonna have to like keep track of in my back pocket. That he has this Glyph of Warding statuette that could technically go off as soon as he removes that symbol, or if he just puts it on the ground and somebody else were to like just walk up to it and touch it. Put that in my DM notes actually. But what's nice about this path is it then led to the outer walkway, which then immediately led to the next throne room. So they actually took a pretty good path through the dungeon that was not very meandering. They still got to do the funnest, the most enjoyable stuff, which was the crab pool and the glyph of warding. They didn't have to navigate the walkway outside because they were already this far into it. They kind of took the straightforward path, but they skipped the barracks. There was nothing really in there except they could have gotten another symbol. And then I think I put like a giant poisonous snake in this bath. Maybe I put another symbol in there. I don't know. I want to give them a chance to acquire these symbols to protect themselves from the traps, but at this point, only one of the Mannix has the symbol. So he technically would not trigger any traps right now, but as soon as anybody else walks in there, then they would trigger one of the traps. And then the throne room was a cutscene. Let's see. Mannix has glyph of warding, Umberly statuette, currently deactivated by his holy symbol. Make sure I write that down in my notes. So the throne room was meant to be the first of, I guess, just 2 cutscenes. I think 2, because the third one will be the dialogue session between the actual ghost of the brother and Gillian. Good morning, Android. So this one was the High Priestess of Umberly, Soretha, condemning Gillian's brother, Sibaroth, to death. I tried to convey that she was of mixed feelings about it. I'm trying to play up the fact that there is a relationship there, a romantic relationship, but ultimately her devotion to her goddess won out against her romantic feelings for the brother, and the goddess has basically told her in order to regain her favor, she has to cut ties with the brother, but everybody's still cursed because Gillian has survived this long. So this place has basically a curse over it because it still has Umberly's protection, which is the giant force field around it, and that's why none of the souls have left because of the soulmonger. But they ultimately want to kill Gillian, so they've been trying to wait basically until Gillian shows up. But this particular scene was neat because it painted a pretty lengthy cutscene that they could see what was going on, and then it ended with an actual combat encounter with the playing up the fact that some of the members that were here in that cutscene are now just vengeful spirits, and those spirits, which I used the Spectre stat block, then possessed the suits of armor around the throne room, and then that was the combat encounter. I also threw a Wraith in there because I wanted to make it a little more interesting, and Wraiths have some powerful attacks, so they only have like 1 around. And it zeroed in on Gillian because obviously they really want to kill the sister here. The animated armors are kind of the opposite end of enemies I like to use. They don't do much damage, and they have a high armor class, so they just kind of last for a long time without really doing much. But hopefully I made it more enjoying by the fact that every single time they killed one, a Spectre popped out, which is... a Spectre is more of what I like, which they have less defense, but they have a pretty strong attack, which Gillian has actually been temporarily had her max HP lowered. I hope she's been tracking that okay. She is down to 25 hit point maximum, where she normally has, I believe, 41. So hopefully we are keeping track of that. In fact, I'm going to put it in here. I don't know why I remember it. 41, I think, is correct. I mean, I could probably look at the tape, any of the tapes and the VODs. I call them tapes. Is that... I'm too old. VODs, I believe, is what people call them now. Gillian has, I believe, 41 hit points normally. So the real key here is I was able to reduce her max hit points down to 25. That's Mannix numbers. You don't want to be in Mannix numbers. And that is there until a long rest. So suddenly she becomes a lot more vulnerable in here, which I think is in keeping with the fact that this dungeon is the culmination of her personal quest. The Wraith didn't necessarily last very long. However, it does not have very many hit points, and it just kind of ran in the middle of them, so they were able to, gang up on it pretty easily. It just has a pretty strong attack, which I think I missed at least once, and I might have gotten like 2 attacks off with it. and then maybe like a couple with the specters. I don't think I was able to reduce anybody else's hit points like I did Gillian's though. I think I went at least twice on her. I don't think I was able to reduce anybody else's stupid high armor class heroes. But yeah, I enjoyed. Thanks, Andrew. I enjoyed this encounter. I think it went pretty well. It went pretty much how I wanted it to, and that's where we ended the session. Khan's still the best dump stat. By dump stat, you mean... When I think dump stat, I mean like a stat you don't care about. All these guys have the most amazing constitution. I think Mannix is the only one with bad con. 0, he's got an 11 constitution. Everybody else, like the frickin' rogue, has got an 18 con, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. I think Gillian's must be average. He's got a 14. 14 is still pretty solid. George, obviously, is the fighter, has a friggin' 16 con, and then the stupid dwarf, who doesn't even need that many hit points because he just wild shapes every time, has a 19 con. So something I need to keep track of as a DM is that anything that involves Constitution saving throws, the party's gonna be very, very good at doing. Stupid party. Loot-wise, there's nothing in here. Too bad. They're a bunch of undead. Undead don't have loot for the most part. The throne, I do plan on having it be magical. So the actual text, which again, I'm adapting this from the Turtle package, because this dungeon is not included in Tomb of Annihilation. Let's see, this is room number 11. So it says the throne weighs 3,000 pounds. Thanks, text. Radiates a strong aura of transmutation magic under the scrutiny of a detect magic spell or a similar effect. An identify spell reveals magical properties. A humanoid that sits in the throne can use it to cast the control weather spell without needing components. As long as the creature remains seated in the throne, it doesn't need to concentrate to maintain the spell. Leaving the throne ends the effect, whereupon the weather gradually returns to normal. That doesn't seem useful in the least, other than just kind of a neat thing. You could control the weather while you're sitting on the throne, I guess. Or a humanoid that sits in the throne can transform itself into a seagull or an octopus. The effect is identical to that of a polymorph spell, except the duration is 8 hours, and the creature can end the effect on itself at any time. I don't think I want to do that because I just did the whole crab thing, and that seems like I'm overlapping a little bit too much. So instead, and I think I had this idea on a previous crafting annihilation, instead, I think when you sit on the throne, Umberly begins whispering things to you. And I need to convey that if anybody sits there, it's basically a trap. If somebody sits there, they have to probably make a save, some kind of mental save, against like psychic damage because they don't understand it. Ooh, I could say that it's in like Aquan or something. Although like George that would affect George also. Well, that's fine. I mean, and basically, if you can understand the language, then you could make if you succeed the saving throw, then maybe you either receive a buff or then you make an intelligence check. Or some. I want to be able to make it so that Gillian and I guess George by proxy would be able to actually receive a buff if they, because they can understand the language. So I need to determine the actual stats for this trap, and then what kind of, because obviously Mannix, well, detect magic isn't. Let's see, would Mannix still have detect magic up, or is that concentration? I need to keep track of that too. No, that is concentration. Okay, well, we keep forgetting about concentration on detect magic. At this point, I would make him recast it, but I mean, frankly, they can chill for 10 minutes, so it's not a big deal for him just to recast it. Because again, it's a ritual. I mean, you don't need it 10 minutes, only if you're going to do it as a ritual, I guess. I would allow the players to short rest in here. I would not allow them to long rest. I don't know if I have a strict reason about it, other than I would just tell them you can't long rest in this dungeon. Because, I mean, that's kind of the way the 5th edition has been balanced, I think. For the average size dungeon, I don't think you're supposed to long rest in it. Low level tier 1, kind of different, because you got like nothing. But I think once you get to like higher tier 1 and then above, I think the average size dungeon, you're designed to just do a couple short rests to get you through, and that's part of the balance of it. It's just every battle is just attrition. It's just a drain on your resources, and you have to manage what you're going to do when. So certainly no long rest here. Definitely allow a short rest, and I would presume they would short rest in here because I think they're going to need it. They actually did take some pretty. In fact, Kaless actually took some decent hits in this one too. Theron did not, but I went through his entire Deinonychus form, I believe. So the throne would be a trap. I don't know what kind of a spell school that would be. If it was like a it would radiate with some kind of like divine aura, I think. What school of magic would that be? Chat, help me out. If it was like because it's I'm not really using a real spell here. It's just kind of a, I don't know, a thing that happens. What are the spell schools? Let's see. Spells. Remind me what spells are. And I need to figure out what the actual stats are. I may use something like, well, Wisdom probably makes the most sense. When would you ever use like an Intelligence or Charisma saving throw? I feel like those are never used. Charisma might be used if you're hearing voices. Charisma might be a good saving throw. That could be useful there. Let's see. Spells. School. Abjuration, Conjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Illusion, Necromancy, Transmutation, and Evocation. Well, Divination, I guess. Well, Divination's like seeing things, right? Let's see, what are divination spells? Divination. Yeah, locate creatures, see invisibility, scrying, mind spike, true seeing, true strike, guidance. So I could do like, well, guidance is a cantrip. Maybe like it would be the effect of the bless spell. What's bless is probably yeah, I think I'm gonna do divination. It's gonna radiate an aura of divination. Magic. Charisma is a force of personality. Yeah, I think I like a charisma saving throw. What is like if somebody casts charm person? Is that wisdom or the problem is wisdom is just overused so much in saves. The attributes really aren't very well balanced in D&D. To where it's not like all of them are used equally. Like you never use a freaking intelligence saving throw, for example. I think if you fight like an illithid or a whatever the little brain thing is, like that might require intelligence saving throws. But like otherwise, all the mind shit is just wisdom. Like it's all wisdom. In fact, if somebody charms, I assume that's wisdom. Like wisdom is everything. And I think that's a legacy from the fact that the saves used to be broken up between what was it? It was you had like a will save, a fortitude save, and whatever the dex one was called, reflex. And that made more sense because it was like essentially dex, con, and wisdom, and that's why like all more wisdom now because they got rid of those as their own separate things and just used the stats. But the problem is it just doesn't feel like it uses the other stats enough. So like wisdom becomes overly important compared to intelligence, even though a lot of skills use intelligence. But ultimately, wisdom is going to be way more helpful in almost every situation compared to intelligence or charisma, for example. Unless, of course, your spellcasting and stats need it. Because if you were to cast Charm Monster, that's wisdom, right? Instead of charisma? Yeah, it's wisdom. I just feel like it's more fun to use. I don't know. I guess wisdom would make the most sense. What is a... what's a good... What's a mental spell that does psychic damage? Mind Spike. Second level divination, 3d8 psychic damage on a failed save, half as much damage on a successful one. And that's wisdom. Well, maybe I'll just do wisdom. I know, only one class. I just reviewed a product with DM's Guild. They added a new class, the Jaeger, that actually uses intelligence as like a lot of things, and I was really happy about that because intelligence is so vastly underused. Because yeah, if you don't have a wizard in your party, chances are your intelligence across your entire party is probably really low, unless you have a Manix who explicitly builds a character around intelligence, or maybe like an Eldritch Knight or something might have a little bit of intelligence. I guess I could use wisdom. The problem is my party's really good at the reason I don't want to do it secretly is because my party is really fucking good at wisdom as well. Theron with an 18 wisdom, and I think he's got bonus con saves. George only a +2, that's not bad. Gillian +0, interesting. Interesting, Gillian. She actually would enjoy the charisma saving throw, which that would help Gillian be able to withstand it. +2. Alright, never mind, my party's not good at wisdom. +2. Nope, it's just Theron. Okay. Huh. What I could do is give her advantage on the save. I think that I would do that. If you speak Aquan, you would get advantage. Dissonant Whisper. Vicious Mockery is a cantrip, though. Let me look up Dissonant Whispers. I think that's a first level, though. Mind Spike is actually second. Oh, it's the same damn thing. 3d6. What is the difference between Dissonant Whispers and Mind Spike? Dissonant Whispers... 1 action, 60 feet, wisdom saving throw, 3d6 psychic damage, and immediately uses its reaction to move as far as its speed allows away from you. That's right, I love doing that with my character in Storm King's Thunder because you could cast that on an enemy, and then because they use their reaction to move, it triggers attacks of opportunity, which is frigging awesome combo. I enjoyed the hell out of that. Mind Spike, oh, it does do more damage, 3d8 psychic damage. It also, on a failed save, you also know the target's location until the spell ends. Well, it doesn't matter. Target can't become hidden from you, and it's invisible, and there's no benefit from that condition against you. Alright, so Mind Spike is technically more useful because it loses the moving thing, but gains more damage, so I think I'll just use that one. Mind Spike, by the way, is from Xanathar's. Which actually it should be... Is it in here? Do I have Xanathar's in here? Oh boy, there's a lot of stuff with Mind. I guess that makes sense. The Mind Blade! The Mind Lash! Spells. Mind Spike, there it is. This is, I think, what I'm going to use. Wisdom saving throw, taking 3d8 psychic damage, or half damage on a successful save. So if you sit on the throne, that's what happens. And I'm going to flavor it like... like you can't understand the language, but you know it's like malevolent and some kind of deity like whispering things to you, and you can't quite understand them. But Gillian and George would be able to understand it, so I would probably give them advantage on the save if they were to sit there. And if they make the save, then maybe they would be able to then like talk back essentially, like mentally, and that would gain them I don't know, some kind of a like the benefits of the bless spell or something. I don't know if I'll be able to communicate that very well, because if somebody if anybody who's not them sits on the throne first, then, well, I can say that they can't understand the language, but and maybe somehow make it sound like it's a watery language. Like I do want to bring Gillian and or George to the throne so they can try to sit on it, but once they see like the actual trap go off, I don't know if anybody would want to sit on a throne of psychic damage without realizing that they would then gain hey Angel, welcome to the channel. Without realizing they would gain the benefit of an actual buff from sitting there, which I guess Bless is just kind of the generic good buff to use, right? Is Bless not Abjuration? What the hell? Oh, I'm looking at 5e Tools website. I should be using this. Bless. Synaptic Strike. What is that one? Is that in here? Synaptic Static. Oh, is that what you said? Synaptic Static. Is a 5th level spell. Choose a point within range and cause psychic energy to explode there. Each creature in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make an intelligence saving throw. Hey, there's intelligence. A creature with an intelligence score of 2 or lower can't be affected by this spell. Target takes 8d6 psychic damage on a failed save. After After a failed save, a target has muddled thoughts for 1 minute. It rolls a d6 and subtracts the number rolled from all of its attacks and ability checks, as well as con saving throws to maintain concentration. Wow. That's really interesting. That was also added in Xanathar's. Oh boy, that's cool that it specifically targets intelligence and does a lot of damage and a debuff on top of that. But no, I can't unleash a 5th level spell on them like that on here. Then nobody wants to sit on the throne. That's a really cool spell. Synaptic Static. I don't know if... Well, maybe Bless actually doesn't work, because that's 3 creatures of your choice within range. Targets roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the attack roll or saving throw. What's a good, like, generic buff spell that I can give to the player? It's only available if you can speak the Aquan language, which I'm just going to house rule that Gillian can understand that language, because it's bullshit that she can't, that Tritons can't. That really seems like it was overlooked. But I want to reward the Aquan, the water people, George and Gillian, if they make this save. Mind Spike. So I'll actually just write that in my notes. I don't have my notes open. Holy crap. Typhoon Palace, please. I realize I need to share this with Platinum patrons too. I've been writing this big all Google Doc sheet just for this dungeon. Pretty much organize all my notes by location. This is number 11. So, Throne gives off an aura of... Well, yeah, it is Divination. Mind Spike is Divination. There you go. Divination magic. Anyone sits on the throne, they hear... I'm going to just say dissonant because I like that word. Dissonant whispering. Sounds like... I don't know, the ocean. It's like ocean waves. And they have to make a wisdom saving throw. Oh, I have to determine the DC of it myself, though, don't I? What DC am I using here? Let's see, what is the other traps of the area? What's a good DC for this general level of play? They're 5th level. Like a 13, 14, 15. Let's see. Number 17 is meant to be a DC 15 dex saving throw for the lightning down here. And then the Nastified Crusher Trap is a DC 13. So we could split the difference and make this one up here a DC 14. That sounds fair. I just decided that. Let's go with DC 14. You heard it here first. 3d8 psychic damage. Save equals half damage, so you're still taking some damage no matter what. The language is in Aquan. So George and Gillian have advantage on the save. Maybe it would be like if they made the save by like 5 or more, because usually it's like when a lot of skill checks happen, if you fail it by 5 or more, then like a really worse thing happens or something, which I always like that kind of rule, where it's kind of like a mitigating losses or successes by how well or how poorly you rolled. So in this case, if you made the save really well, then not only do you I would have it be not take any damage. Success equals no damage, but I think I want to like reward a buff. I think that'd be a cool opportunity to second level spells is DC 13. Yeah. 50% chance to succeed. Oh yeah, there you go. I'm bad at figuring out that math. Yeah, I like degrees of success. Success too. I cannot freaking speak. Good lord. Tongue tied today. Maybe I drank too much coffee. I'm too jittery. Yeah, with wisdom, I just looked at that, didn't I? Gillian's got a 0. Theron's got a million wisdom, I think. 7. The only thing is, I expect like one person to sit on this throne and then have the thing happen, and then everybody else is like, nope, I'm not sitting there. +2, +2, +0. So yeah, with a +2, a DC 14 would be about 50%. But if you have advantage, I don't know what that does to the math, but advantage is pretty damn powerful. And I would reward advantage to Gillian and George and make it so they would take no damage and instead receive a buff. I just don't know what buff I would use. I don't want it to be like a big buff, but something that they would like. I could just award inspiration. Is that easier? Or would it be like a spell-like buff? They have inspiration currently. Gillian does already. I mean, that seems like the easiest thing. Maybe just award inspiration. In terms of you're like fighting back against the goddess's influence, but you can only have a chance at it if you can understand it. Advantage is usually a +5. Interesting. So that'll be the throne. They can walk outside this door onto the balcony and see these crushing waves, which notice how Theron was like, I'd climb out the window. And I'm like, at one point, because that is a like 30-foot drop into just surging seawater into a cave, which I didn't necessarily tell him he couldn't do that, but I just told him, hey, this is not just crawling out. I mean, this is, and again, that's probably partly because of the map. You know, Roll20 doesn't really do elevation very well. You'd have to have a very, very specific map style to be able to convey elevation, but in this case I just had to inform them like, hey, you're going to drop down into a very dangerous situation, and I'm hoping I can play that same thing right here on the balcony and be like, this is just your chance to see the same area from out here. You can see the bridge, you can see the cave, and what this is meant to do is just tell the players there is an entire backside of this dungeon, so if they get somehow lost or confused over here, they realize, well, wait, how do we get over here? This is not meant for them to cross at all. Hopefully nobody tries to do that, because that would really fuck things up for me. I realize I think they still have those stupid balloon packs, which could cause major headaches. They've been holding on to those in their back pocket, I think. Or do they use them for... He's got 2 different sending stones. He's got a bunch of scrolls he never uses. I'm giving you people scrolls. Use your scrolls. DMs want you to use your stuff, because then I will give you more stuff. My God, he's got a lot of items. Look at this. Did they use the balloons already? Hey, John. Those crushing waves are mean. Yeah, for sure. They are... Let's see, level, what is that, area 12? Stone balcony is 30 feet above the water and connects to the throne room by a stone double door. Obviously, that's right here. It doesn't actually say... Why does it not say how much the... It's area 12, right? Oh, there we go. Any creature that starts its turn in the water must succeed on a DC 10 strength saving throw. Ha! We know my party sucks at strength. Or be dashed against the walls, taking 2d6 bludgeoning damage, and dragged 1d6 times 5 feet westward or eastward by the current as the water rushing into the cave, as the water rushes into the cave or recedes. So you are just buffeted every turn. You're buffeted by, yeah. So it's a bad area to fall into, for sure. My problem is they're not meant to actually cross this area. I'm trying to figure out if they have any tools that would allow them to do that. But... Oh, he does have the balloon pack still. Bastard. Levitate spell for 10 minutes. You rise in the air 20 feet. Can't maneuver without pushing or pulling against an object. But you could just push off. I think. Did we determine that, how that works? Benefits of the levitate spell for 10 minutes. Levitate equals rise in the air 20 feet. Can't maneuver without pushing or pulling against an object, but you could push off somewhere and essentially get a form of flight, I think. I don't know. I don't want to shut things down so much, but I definitely want to gently discourage the players from going this route. You know, you never want to just say straight up like no to players if you can. I mean, sometimes you have to if they really want to take advantage of you, but I really don't want to actually. This path is meant to be just a kind of cursory looky-loo of things to come, and not actually a traversal path because they skip a lot of the dungeon if they go down there. Android, have you played this dungeon? You sound like you have. I'm really interested in your thoughts now. I mean, I'm always interested in y'all's thoughts, but that's yeah, the gypsy. I haven't actually covered the cave part of it yet because we're still looking at this part of the dungeon. So, assuming they short rest here, they deal with this magical throne, which I just wrote down how that works. It's just a trap essentially. I may have an extra cutscene here if Gillian actually steps up here. Like she'll be able to hear Umberlee saying like, you know, you've returned and you will die here, like just like your brother, or something taunting, which would be cool. You can certainly, yeah, the Matt Mercer method. You can certainly try. That's always the best thing to do. There's a giant hallway down here. There's a door that leads outside. I don't think there's anything in room number 13. I think it's okay to have a few empty rooms. It's just a guard room. That leads outside to some stairs to an area. There's this giant terraced garden that's kind of overgrown. The only thing in here of note is there's going to be a small treasure pile here, which is in the gazebo. And I put a roper there instead of the decapus, which is a weird, like, demonic octopus that has a weak CR value. But a roper seems really fun here, just hanging upside down on the top of the gazebo. And, you know, it's just, that's like a classic D&D trap, I think, is to have a group of treasure laying in the middle of anything, and then obviously as soon as you grab it, something happens. I think that happens in just about every other dungeon in any D&D campaign, so it's just fantastic. Dimension door is 500 feet. He already used it, though. He's got the cape is a once per day, once per long rest, I believe. So yes, that would have fucked me up, so I'm glad he actually used that. The property of the cape can't be used again until the next dawn, and I've already said I will not let them long rest in this dungeon. So he has used his cape for this dungeon, which, I mean, I like the way he used it. He solved the problem of getting in the front door. But no more teleporting for you. Where was I? So the outside, there's going to be a roper here guarding some treasure. Let's see. The floor of the gazebo is littered with the remains of past meals, including lizard bones, bloodhawk feathers, and 2 turtle shells. Huh. Amid the refuse is a ring made of lapis lazuli. The ring has a magical quirk that causes its wearer to experience a reoccurring nightmare after sleeping for more than 1 hour with the ring on. The nightmare is vivid. The wearer is engulfed by a sperm whale while clinging to a floating barrel on a stormy sea. After being swallowed whole in the nightmare, the ring wearer awakens, no worse for the wearer. That is very random and bizarre. It has no actual effect or detriment whatsoever. It's just this weird, random scene. So I think I'm going to replace that with like a ring of protection or something. Maybe I'll include some kind of cutscene with it, but unless there's a more... I could do like a ring of water breathing or water walking. That might be more thematic with the water theme of the dungeon, I guess. Because there's a... Well, it's not really a ring of water breathing, is there? There's a ring of water walking, which is uncommon. You can stand and move across any liquid surface as if it were solid ground. That seems... It could come in really handy. In fact, because Gillian, I believe, can already breathe underwater, but nobody can walk on water. Is she just straight amphibious? Yeah, she's amphibious. So maybe put a ring of water walking in there. It could be a really interesting... I like giving these really interesting... You know, it's good to get like combat items, obviously, to have that power. Although I would argue that 5th edition is way less item heavy required as previous editions, which is both good and bad. For treasure equals ring of water walking. I don't think I'm going to tie a curse to it because it's only an uncommon magic item, so it's not really that powerful. There's also a ring of swimming, but two of these characters I think have swim speeds. I gave that ring a slight glow that wasn't useful for seeing beyond their normal sight, but could be used to read things at night, so the players might use it. Otherwise I don't see my players wearing it. Yeah. I think a ring of water walking should be fun. And technically would be somewhat relevant here, because somebody could then, if they fell, if they wore the ring of water walking and then fell in here, then you could stand on the water, so it would be more like a bounce house effect. You know, like it might be hard to maintain your balance, but I think it would basically make it so you weren't subject to this trap at all. So that would be kind of interesting. It would be an interesting treasure item that would be like immediately useful in that area. So that would be kind of cool. But that's only if they fight this roper for it too. Which ropers are pretty fun enemies. So that's interesting, and I like doing those optional like combat things. Like there's no reason the players have to do this at all. They don't have to venture in here at all. I will probably, if they come out here, I will mention the fact that there seems to be some glinting light in the gazebo. More than likely they will be extremely cautious about this area. So we'll see if I can get it off or not in terms of a surprise roper. Room 21 has absolutely nothing, I think. It's kind of boring. If we go down this way. Let's see. 21 is a lounge. 6 topies hide in the clay urns. 2 per urn. All 6 emerge and attack if any urn is disturbed or if the double door to the west is open. Topies are like pygmy zombies, I think, that were added in here. CR half. They're very small. So there is meant to be a combat encounter in here. Double doors, an overgrown garden terrace, 2 furnishings here have deteriorated with age. The plastered walls are peeling, and tropical birds have made nests in the cracked ceiling. A staircase flanked by marble pillars climbs to a raised stone platform decorated with tattered rugs, cushions, and tapestries. About the room are 3 day urns painted with images of sharks and octopuses and 2 rotted couches. It is literally a lounge. That's true. Yeah, you could maybe have a dex in terms of like just falling prone or something. With the water breathing. Do I want to put a combat encounter in here, and if so, what do I want to use? Is a poltergeist a thing in this game? No. I thought, is that like a ghost variant? Because I could use, I don't know if I want to use straight up like zombies. We fought zombies to death. It really doesn't interest me. But using spirits could be interesting. I could also do just animate objects, right? That's a spell. I could use it as the spell. So I could use like this whole area is just kind of cursed and comes to life. Let's see here. So I can choose. They do have their own AC and hit points, so I could just use. I could just have it be like random items come to life that they attack, like literally a couch, a vase, and all that. I guess I would have to make tokens. A chair. That'd be kind of a unique combat encounter. They're just fighting like objects. Animated object is constructed with AC hit points, attack, strength, and dex determined by its size. Its con is 10, intelligence was number 3, and charisma is 1. Speed is 30 feet. If the object lacks legs or other appendages it can use for locomotion. Instead, it has a flying speed of 30 feet and can hover. I think that could be pretty enjoyable. So they would just mindlessly attack the nearest people once they entered this area. So what would be the best spread? How many did they get? Let's see, you get 10 non-magical objects. Medium count as 2, large count as 4, huge count as 8. Say that a couch is large, the vases are medium. So you have a pool of 10, and then each one costs a certain amount of that pool. So if you did one, so you could do 2 couches and 2 vases, because that would be 4, 8. No, you couldn't, because medium counts as 2. You do 2 couches and 1 vase, or you do 1 couch, 2 vases. What about tiny and small? Where's tiny and small? Choose up to 10 magical objects in range. I guess they're just 1 each. We have to assume. So 1 couch. I might as well use different ones for different stats. 1 couch would be large. Maybe 2 vases. So you're at 2, 4. You're at 8, and then 2 of something small. Which would be like, I guess a dwarf is small, so small is still pretty good size. Medium's actually like a size of a person, and then large would be even bigger. So large would be like a coffee table or something. Well, no, large would be a couch. Medium would be a chair. Large couch. I can't believe I'm discussing this. Large couch, medium chair, and then small vases. I think that's how I would do it. Which, they get some pretty impressive stats, don't they? The large couch has 50 hit points, although no AC. Plus 6 to hit, 2d10 plus 2. Okay, this is interesting. Is there a token for animate objects? There is not, is there? There's a character. Oh, wow, this character sheet is bullshit. Oh no, it's not a character sheet. This is just a spell. So I would have to actually make character sheets for all these things. That's a bit of a pain in the butt, but I can do that. I think I like that idea. Just turn this into it, because that's kind of what I want to do for a poltergeist encounter, is just use animate objects, which technically, unfortunately, don't exist as character sheets. It's because it's a spell, so I'll have to actually make character sheets. But yeah, let's put that in 21. I wonder if I should have any treasure in here, because this is a pretty big encounter that the players can just totally skip. So, objects bring to life when living creatures enter. 1, use animate object. Object stat blocks. 1 couch, large object. 2 like lounge chairs kind of things, medium objects, and then 2 vases, small objects, and they just kind of float around and just kind of bash you in the face, I guess. The smalls of those vases have 25 hit points and an AC of 16, plus 6 to hit, 1d8 plus 2 damage. That's real freaking solid. That's hilarious. And it's like those flying swords. Those are kind of a pain in the ass for the characters. It makes a slam attack with an attack bonus and bludgeoning damage determined by its size. DM might rule a specific object inflicts slashing or piercing damage based on its form. I think all of these would be bludgeoning. It'd be really funny if there was like a couch cushion or something, but I think I ran out of objects to enchant. So I have 1 large, that's 4. 2 mediums, that's 6, 8, and then 2 smalls is 10. So that would be fair for 1 animate object, which that spell is a 5th level spell. And there's nobody to... They have to just fight these objects. So that's usually the thing you can do, is just fight the caster who's actually casting. That's the best way to get rid of these kind of summons, because it requires concentration. Well, in this case, there is no friggin' concentration. These objects just come to life and attack you, and you got to take them out. So I like that idea. Unfortunately, I will have to put that together. Either I'm not going to do it here on the stream because we're running out of time, but tonight or tomorrow, make actual stat sheets for these. So the lightning trap, as I've mentioned, as soon as they step in the hallway and They are and anyone who does not have a holy symbol of Umberlee that steps into this hallway will be subject to this lightning bolt trap, which I think. Turn my brightness up a little bit. I think I can use the same one that's printed in here. I don't know if I need to change, because I think the lightning bolt is lessened, but I'm changing this a lot. So initially, it's only if you jack with this actual like glowing orby thing are you subject to its damage. I'm changing that to where it is like a straight up like turret, defensive turret, where it just blasts lightning down this corridor to anyone who is not wearing their Umberlee symbol. Let's see. It is the orb is 1 foot in diameter, sheds bright light in 30 feet. Does it? I think it does shed bright light. They can see that there. In fact, let's grab somebody that doesn't have dark vision. Gillian, I think. Yeah. Looking Gillian. Yep. So you can see it right there. As soon as you cross it, you'll be able to see that, whether you've got your own vision or not. Dim leaves for another 30 feet. Whenever a creature touches the orb, yeah, I'm skipping all that. The orb malfunctions and emits lightning in a 100-foot long line as wide as the hall. Did I actually measure this line? Look at that. That is 100 feet. So in fact, that square right there will also be subject. Basically, unless they're on this far end of the hallway. Well, I would probably, they have to be in here. That would be easier for me to keep track of. They'll have to be actually in these groove lines right here. As soon as they step in this line, they will trigger the trap, which I should probably draw like a line on my map for me. Let's see, is this drawing a line? Why are we not drawing a line, people? Oh, I'm freehanding, my bad. Line. There we go. There's a line, only that I can see. And then it is a DC 15 Dex saving throw, or you take 4d6 lightning damage. You can save for half damage. So it's not nearly as strong as a lightning bolt, though. Like 4d6 is an average of 14. That's not too rough. But the idea here is that this trap just keeps on happening. Like every time you set foot in this thing, and I may, as soon as it's triggered, put everybody into initiative order, and just say, you hear it like charging up again, and then players will have to like figure out what to do, and then if they all back out, then I can take down initiative. Or, only if they, go forward and stay in here. None of these doors are locked, so they could easily go up here, open a door. I think that's pretty much a free action, and just run through it. They could certainly do that, and they've got enough movement to do it. So that is an option. And I believe you can easily make it through here without triggering it again. So it's not, you've got a door right here. You could easily run in there and not trigger the trap again. If there was, more door, if the doors were up here, it'd be way more difficult. But instead, you could go move door to door. The problem is once everybody exits this area, and moves into, say, this bedroom, and then the same thing will happen when they come out. They will come out of the door and then immediately have to go through this again. Mannix could walk around safely, but if he's in here while somebody who doesn't have the holy symbol of Umberlee, then it will indiscriminately just blast everybody into the doorway, into the hallway. So it is not too damaging, especially if you make the save. That's probably only going to be like 8 damage or something, but it is a repeatable trap. I haven't quite determined. It says the orb can't be removed from its wall fixture. It has an AC of 10 and 1 hit point, immunity to poison and psychic damage. Destroying the orb extinguishes its light and renders the piece non-magical. So, because the easiest thing to do would be, well, I'm just going to shoot an arrow at it and then immediately destroy it. I don't think I want to do that. I'm probably going to have it be like encased in a thing. But if players wanted to, if they managed to rebound their way up to this edge, then maybe they could, with a melee attack or some kind of a sleight of hand check, be able to remove the orb. It's in some kind of like special glass casing. They could then like destroy that from up close or something. I don't want to let them just get a ranged attack off. In other words, that doesn't seem fair. But if they work for it and they actually get up and close to it, then I would probably let them just destroy it and disable it that way. Otherwise, they will be subject to this trap. Essentially, once per round, it will go zap all the way down the hallway. The bedroom and the kitchen have nothing really going on. The bedroom will have a cutscene. They'll be able to see another ghostly cutscene. However, this time there won't be any like vengeful spirits attacking them at all. It'll just be an area of respite, basically, which I think they'll need. Although, if they skip this whole outdoor area and don't fight the Roper, I think they'll be in better shape. Let's see, there's nothing really. There's a chest or lock. Keys can be found in Area 24. Chest contains 5 outfits of traveler's clothes, size for a large human female. The other chest holds priestly vestments benefiting clear of Umberly and 8 iron keys of different shapes and sizes. The keys open 8 of the 9 chests in Area 18. I would probably include some more actionable treasure in this back room. Maybe include like a little mechanical treasure trap just to make things interesting. There'll be a cutscene here where they'll be able to finally realize that the High Priestess and Gillian's brother had a relationship together. So it'll be just a pure cutscene there, where essentially she's torn between her love for him and her love for her goddess. And as they just saw in the previous cutscene, that the love for the goddess ended up winning out. So this was a cutscene that took place earlier. So they'll be able to get a little bit of treasure, including another holy symbol of Umberly, so they could take advantage of that and not set off traps that way with those people at least. The kitchen really has nothing in it. I think it's just literally like a single sentence. Characters can search the room, can salvage enough material to assemble 5 mess kits. Any food that was once stored here has long since perished. So really just an empty room. Just kind of a area they can jump in and hide around in. I don't know if I'm going to be using the keys, Android, and because if they did, I would have given it to Manix, because technically he did search. So what I did is I replaced the key with the holy symbol of Umberly in the feast hall, I believe, the number 5 area. So instead of finding a key to the chest, they found the holy symbol of Umberly, because that's more useful. Frankly, my party has 3 rogues. Well, 1 rogue and 2 multi-class rogues. So I never see a locked thing as being much of an issue for them. Instead, I may just put some of the keys in the bedroom, and then that could facilitate them opening some of the chests rather than having to use the thieves' tools. Although I think I do have a house rule set up on thieves' tools. I believe Cert helped design that one. In terms of if you fail really bad, you can break your thieves' tools, which if you're out in the world can be pretty painful. But yeah, I might include something where they can scrounge something in here, but there's not really anything. There's just not much going on in these 2 rooms, unfortunately. And I don't think every room. This is more of an exploration, cutscene, trap thing rather than combat everywhere. And I'm just adding there's a combat encounter in 21. There's a Roper encounter here that's optional. Technically, this one down here is optional. They don't never have to go to this side of the dungeon. Instead, they will have to experience the lightning trap. They will experience this giant crusher trap, which I will probably have to pull back on because it is so devastatingly powerful, even though they can see it a lot. But I am technically making the lightning one more powerful because it's continuously triggered down the hallway. So players are more likely to leap into this door without necessarily sitting here and investigating. And if they leap in here, this crusher trap goes off, these walls come together, and they can freaking kill people. Like, it is a 8d10 bludgeoning damage. It's an average of 44 damage, and if it takes you down to 0, it fucking kills you. That's a little crazy. And I feel bad because in this case, they're probably dodging this lightning trap left and right and running in here. So it's pretty nasty. I believe if you make the save, let's see, a creature between the colliding blocks of stone must make a DC 13 Dex saving throw. On a success, the creature leaps out of the way. So what's weird is if you save, you take no damage. But if you fail, you're basically dead, which seems really bad. So I think I'm going to just tone down the damage on it, which still might kill people, but maybe I would allow like an additional, I know this is my trepidation for killing people, and just because, I don't know, it doesn't seem impactful for a player to die here in this area. But maybe it would be. I don't. It kind of depends on how it's going, I guess. But maybe I would allow another save, like a random roll d20. You know what I was thinking though? If somebody dies here, instead of their soul would not be sucked into the soulmonger here, assuming they haven't completed the dungeon. Instead, they would be trapped here. So I could have Umberlee come in as like this new avenue of player creation and be like, hey, Umberlee is going to offer you the chance to be essentially reincarnated, um, either in a similar body or a different body. But you are like her servant now. Like your alignment changes, and you are working for Umberlee as like an avatar, essentially kind of a revenant style thing. Which means that you would be wanting to hunt Gillian eventually, and like all water creatures, and George, I guess, to an extent. Assuming Umberlee hates turtles too, I'm not sure. In my campaign, I suppose she could do anything. So I'm thinking maybe use that as a different way of storytelling, but I need to be prepared for that because this trap will very likely freaking kill people. Save or suck is mean. It's pretty nuts. But what happens if this fucking like kills like half my party? Then that I'm not I'm not exactly prepared for either. So I would probably allow before they actually jump into this room, be like, hey, you see this, you see that. There's blood stains on the floor. You see like scratch marks. It looks pretty fucking. It's supposed to be like a very highly telegraphed trap in here. But yeah, the save or suck part is really nuts. Because they just did a lightning bolt trap. They, hopefully survive this crusher trap, and then they come into this treasure room where they do get a lot of cool treasures. I'm gonna probably put an instrument for Gillian as at least one magic item, maybe even another magic item, and then a lot of cool like treasure and various utility stuff in here. And then two of the things are gonna be mimics. So two of the chests they happen to maybe the first one they open will be subject to the mimic adhesive trait, and they attack. I don't think we've ever used mimics in the campaign, which is fun. There is a hidden door here, which traps the rest of the dungeon, acts as a barrier, and the only way to open it is to present the holy symbol of Umberlee in front of it. So if Mannix goes near it, then the mouth will actually open. I do run into a slight problem where if the players do that before going down here, that kind of messes up my story flow slightly, so I'm probably going to have to, after they deal with this encounter and loot this room, whether or not they go down here or down here, have Gillian literally hear the brother, like calling to her, like hearing his voice very clearly to the south. And so hopefully that will bring the players down here to actually check on the brother who is in here, which will give her the final cutscene where the brother will be able to explain kind of what happened. The fact that he and everybody else, all the spirits, are trapped here because they still seek to kill Gillian as the last person on that envoy. So that was their last mission, was still to destroy her group. And since she's still alive, they're kind of all cursed in place. So he's going to give her the official task: you have to kill essentially my former lover and the instigator of all of these problems, which is the High Priestess. And he'll be able to explain the fact that the holy symbols are used to like get around safely if the players haven't already figured that out yet. And maybe they'll find another holy symbol. They'll find one in the bedroom. They might find one down here. Although at this point, once they've made it past the crusher trap, I guess I could have them try to have to escape this area as well. But essentially, that's the end of the Umberlee traps. Opening the stone door is the last of that. And then we get to the cave area, which I don't think I've still been able to talk about this. I've been talking about this other stuff ad nauseum in the Crafting Annihilation series, but I don't, for the last like 2 weeks, I don't see us making it to the boss this next session. Minimum, if they take the fastest route possible, they go down the hallway, they deal with the lightning trap, they ignore the bedroom, which would be a bummer because they missed that cutscene. They go down the crusher trap here. So bare minimum, there's only one combat encounter, the mimics. They can come down, talk to the brother. They open the stone door. So technically, if they do all of that I just mentioned, they could make it as far as like this cave area. Combat is what's going to take the longest, and there's only the mimic fight if they just go that route. And then I've got just another kind of random combat event with these Chuuls, which are going to be like the highest ranking members of this Umberlee sect, I guess, that were mutated instead of just died and turned into ghosts and specters. There'll be just a Chul fight here. I don't think I've got anything planned for this area down here. In fact, it might be worth just cutting this off. Pretend that's a dynamic lighting cut off, and don't even bother with the exploring down there. Make it more linear. They go up here. There's a little geyser tunnel that bashes them around. There's a bridge which could drop them in, and then I've got a fun, really fun boss battle here, but I really don't think we're going to get to that tomorrow. I would be very, very shocked just based on the fact that we've got at least minimum 2 combat encounters and then some traps and stuff in between, and that's assuming the players don't explore any of these other areas, which, 15 and 16 is just pure exploration, but outside there's a combat encounter with the roper, and then there's in here going to be a combat encounter with the object, so they could even make it not as far as the crusher trap depending on how things go. It's really hard to be able to plan for that kind of thing. I really respect and enjoy dungeons that have multiple avenues. You don't want to make just a straight roller coaster car ride and have it go through certain doors, so it's fun to do that, but as a DM you have to be able to prep for all of these situations. This famously happened to me, I think, in Lost Mine of Fendover during the final dungeon, where my players just randomly picked a path, which if you've seen that dungeon is like splintering paths. I forgot what it's the actual cave, Wave Echo Cave. And my players took a path that basically led them to the final boss room as like the 3rd or 4th room they went to, and I was woefully unprepared. I didn't have that room set up at all in Roll20, where I literally had to just put up like a locked door and like an under construction tape on it. It was like, sorry, I was not prepared for this. You guys can't go in here yet. I try to do a better job of that, but so now I'm more aware of the fact that players can skip around, which is why I'm really worried about them trying to skip into Area 12, because I really don't want to jump ahead to the boss fight this early. I've got a really fun. I'm going to use the Kraken Priest, actually a modified Kraken Priest stat block with her own abilities. This is Saretha. She's been transformed and mutated similar to the Chuls, but she is going to be a pure spellcaster who also, as a reaction, can animate the tentacles of this giant Kraken statue. And I think I might even use like the juvenile Kraken stat, maybe tone that down a little bit, because that's obviously a high creature, to do like bonus attacks, kind of almost legendary action style in the middle of this fight. And then she's got some cool spells she can use. There'll be Chuls in this fight. It's going to be a really fun boss fight, but I don't want to do it too soon, because I want them to experience the dungeon first. So hopefully it'll go over well. Hopefully is the name of the game. Always win DMing. I think that will do it for this week's Crafting Annihilation. If you are a patron, please vote in the poll for tonight's DM Roundtable. We're doing our monthly discussion for patrons, where we pick a topic, we discuss it. Currently there's like a 3-way tie. I obviously put way too many options on there. If you're not a patron, hey, now's the time. You can be a patron for as little as $1. Literally, it's open to all patrons. You can jump on our Discord channel and just chat with a topic that we pick. We vote for it each month, and just a bunch of us get on and we talk it. We talk about whatever the topic is. I think we've done like cutscenes and balancing encounters, and then I upload them to the YouTube channel so everybody can listen in. So we've got multiple topics on there for voting. This month's is going to be tonight at 8 p.m. my time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I think I'm -5 UTC right now if you're outside of the U.S. So yeah, please vote in that poll, because right now I don't know what one we're going to do. There's a 3-way tie between different topics, so it's going to be good times. Otherwise, you'll see me on Friday doing more of my Let's Play afternoon, and then, of course, Friday evening for Tomb of Annihilation. I'll see y'all for then.